Coast. It was a weekend of unrest and violence in big cities from New York to Washington. So let's get reaction, discuss the situation in Seattle in tonight's lightning round featuring Democratic strategist Kevin Walling, former National Republican Congressional Committee Communications Director Matt Gorman, and KTTH Seattle radio talk show host Jason Rantz. All right, we want a true lightning round so we can try to get to everything, guys, here. So I'll start with you, Jason, on this issue out in Seattle. A new element, according to Como News out there, that was not part of the initial discussion last month was this exception that would allow for the reselling of stolen goods to raise money for a basic need. Quote, if somebody stole a bunch of cell phones and intended to resell them to pay their rent, it would apply to that defense. It's according to a staff member of the council there. Jason?
Yeah, the way that they're talking about it is absolutely absurd. It's absolutely insane. And it's 100% going to lead to more crime. This isn't merely saying we're giving a pass. They're codifying a policy that kind of is already in place. They basically don't go after crime in the city of Seattle. So they're codifying this, which means once we get someone in a position to actually change things in the Seattle City Attorney's Office, it's going to be that much harder to change a policy because this council is trying for future generations to just completely change the scope of the law here. It's not going to end well.
One of the reports I saw said up to 100 misdemeanors would be, we're not talking about felonies here, but Scott Lindsay, former mayoral public safety advisor, said, quote, it's a green light for crime. Kevin.
Yeah, I don't think the policy makes a lot of sense, Shannon. Now we know there are tens of thousands of Americans behind bars right now because they can't afford bail for nonviolent crimes. That's one thing. But certainly loosening laws with regards to theft, with regards to violence, I don't think is a winning answer. Now, we know a lot of Americans are hurting because of COVID economically, because of their lot in life, because of this virus. They're out of work, and they are being led to this kind of activity in order to provide for themselves and their families. So more resources have to be made for soup kitchens and things like that, and not for loosening these kinds of laws in our cities.
Matt, what do you make of it?
Well, in your previous report, that person in Seattle said, well, that person's living in poverty. They need to steal the sandwich. Well, what about the person making the sandwich? If enough people steal those things, they'll be the ones in poverty. Or you know, the homeless folks camping out on private property, then I guess it isn't private property anymore. You know, and also, what is it going to do to the tourism of places like Seattle, to say nothing of that? You know, if you feel unsafe living there, imagine traveling there.
Well, and there are business owners writing these letters firing off saying, please don't do this, because even if you don't have the crime on your books, because you won't have the prosecutions, it doesn't mean they're not going to still be happening and to our businesses. Okay, Jason, I have to start with you again on this one to make sure everybody gets a bite at this. This is the Red House Autonomous Zone that has been growing out there in Seattle. Apparently there has been, I think this is Portland.
Portland.
And apparently it's been I don't know, disbanded at this point. There's been some kind of agreement. Town Hall, Julio Rosas writing this. The Red House Autonomous Zone, Portland's version of Seattle's short-lived Chaz, appears to be coming to an end after the city issued an apology and promised to not attack supporters of the family at the center of the lengthy legal battle. Family been evicted there, and some folks took over. So now what, Jason?
Yeah, I love the apology for the audacity to tweet that we will not allow an autonomous zone to be set up in the city of Portland. Now, to be clear, in the last few hours, the story has shifted a little bit. The autonomous zone is still there. They've moved the barriers a little bit. There is a disagreement as to whether or not an actual agreement has been made between the family, which we found out they are not destitute and being put out during a pandemic to live out on the streets. They actually have a second home about 2 miles in northeast Portland, 2 miles away. So the story that we've been told is not accurate, but the activists aren't going to leave. And it turns out when you decide you're not going to punish people for setting up an occupied zone, they continue to do it. Shocking, I know.
Well, defenders of the family will say the house that's 2 miles away is from extended family, but still somebody I think that they are now living with. Okay, very quick. I can give you 10 seconds each to Kevin, then Matt.
Yeah, Shannon, this is not a great story for Democrats that are being challenged across the board on defunding the police. No leader in my party actually supports that. The standard bearer of my party, Joe Biden, actually supports more resources for community policing. So Republicans used these stories against us effectively just 2 months ago. We need to push back hard and support shop owners, those kinds of people in our communities that are also struggling.
Quick, final word, Matt.
We're seeing this in Georgia right now. Raphael Warnock, John Ossoff, Republicans are using it very potently down there in the Georgia Senate runoffs.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you all. Come back for a lightning round very soon.
Thanks, Shannon.